Many historic figures had dark sides to their personalities, from bribery to debauchery and sometimes even murder. Today we take a look at some of the most slimy and appalling figures in history. If you haven't already, hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more videos. A nephew of his immediate predecessor, Pope John XIX, Pope Benedict IX's father, used bribery to secure his election to the papacy in 1032. He was a complete disaster as a pope, who stood out for his moral unfitness. Church leaders accused him of adulteries and murders. He assaulted men, women, boys, and girls. He was also a sadist who enjoyed torturing, burning, drowning, and flaying those who angered him. His behavior eventually became too much and led to an uprising. The young Holy Father was forced to flee Rome within a year of his election as Pope. He was brought back and reinstated by the armies of Holy Roman Emperor Conrad II. In 1044, he was again forced out of the city, and a new pope, Sylvester III, was elected in his place. Benedict returned with another army, captured Rome, forced Sylvester to abdicate, and had himself elected pope for the third time. Pope Benedict grew tired of the cycles of ouster, followed by having to fight his way back to the papal throne, and in 1045, not long after his third election as pope, he decided to retire. To fund his retirement, he hit upon a slimy scheme and sold the papacy to a priest, who became Pope Gregory VI. Pope Benedict was charged by the church for that and other misdeeds, and excommunicated. Russia's greatest poet, Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin, was an outstanding novelist, short story writer, playwright, and dramatist. He is regarded as the founder of modern Russian literature. Pushkin's tragic end began in 1836 when he received an anonymous letter that hinted at the infidelity of his wife, Natalia Pushkina. Georges d'Anthès was a French officer serving in the Russian army. He had been publicly pursuing Pushkin's wife, Natalia, a beautiful, flirtatious, and frivolous woman. Rumors swirled of an affair between the Frenchman and the poet's wife. The era's code of honor demanded that Pushkin challenge the offender to a duel, which the poet did in November 1836. However, d'Anthès married Natalia's sister soon after, which made him Pushkin's brother-in-law, so that challenge was dropped. However, d'Anthès continued to publicly pursue Natalia Pushkina. He went about it so openly that rumors once again circulated, this time to the effect that the Frenchman had married Natalia's sister only to save her honor and to have an excuse to get closer to Pushkin's wife. So another challenge was issued, and this time it was accepted. On February 7, 1837, Pushkin and d'Anthès met in a duel. In movies and fiction, the good and romantic guy wins. This was real life, however, and the trained soldier d'Anthès fatally wounded Pushkin, who in return only managed to slightly wound the Frenchman's arm. Russia's greatest poet died of his injuries 2 days later. Aldrich Ames was a Central Intelligence Agency official who rose high in the agency's Soviet and East European division, which afforded him access to Soviet counterintelligence. The son of a CIA analyst, Ames's connections helped him in joining the CIA in 1962. Ames was a heavy drinker. His alcohol-related problems included drunken run-ins with cops and drunken brawls in public with foreign diplomats. On one occasion, he forgot secret documents in an NYC subway car. None of that stopped him from rising steadily through the CIA's ranks. In 1985, Ames and his wife began selling secrets to the KGB. By the time they were caught in 1994, Ames and his wife were paid over $2.7 million by the Soviets and Russians. He purchased a big $520,000 house, luxury vacations, premium credit cards whose minimum monthly payment far exceeded his salary, and luxury cars that stood out in the CIA's parking lot. However, no alarm bells were raised for years. Ames didn't need high-tech means to smuggle out secrets. He simply stuffed documents in his briefcase or in trash bags and brazenly carried them out of the CIA headquarters at the end of the workday. As a result of Ames's treachery, at least 12 CIA spies within the Soviet Union were captured, of whom 10 were subsequently executed. After he was arrested in 1994, he cut a deal with prosecutors that spared him the death penalty. In February 1519, Hernan Cortez landed with a small force on Mexico's eastern coast and subdued that region. The Spaniards then proceeded to march inland towards the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, defeating and allying with the natives en route. By the time he reached Tenochtitlan, Cortez had a large native army, around a core of Spaniards. Emperor Montezuma II, indecisive since he heard the first reports of Cortez's arrival, invited Cortez and his men into his camp. He hoped to better understand them and their weaknesses. Foolishly, Montezuma showered his guests with lavish gifts of gold. This only served to excite Cortez's lust for plunder. In a slimy move, while a guest in Montezuma's palace, Hernan Cortez treacherously seized Emperor Montezuma and held him hostage. He then proceeded to rule Tenochtitlan and the Aztec Empire through the captive emperor. In April 1520, Cortez had to speed back to Mexico's east coast in order to ward off another Spanish expedition sent to oust him. He left behind a Spanish garrison of 200 men under a trusted deputy. In Cortez's absence, his deputy massacred thousands of Aztecs in Tenochtitlan's great temple. This triggered a massive uprising against the Spaniards. Cortez rushed back hoping to pacify the natives. It did not work as well as expected. The livid Aztecs proceeded to stone the Spaniards' deputy to death. Cortez fled Tenochtitlan and assembled a powerful native army. With it, he finally subdued the city.